Video. All right. I think we're up on the wall.
All right, we up and running. Give it a quick check.
Yep.
Just getting everything going. If you're with us, we'll get started in a second.
All right. Yep. Looks like we're good.
All right, welcome everyone to the 034 Motorsport 0BS live chat. I'm Javad Shodzi and this is Nate Stewart. We're going to answer all your questions about all things 034. It's certainly anything Volkswagen, Audi, or BMW related. And all general car questions we're happy to discuss. We can provide detailed and in-depth answers to any question you have using our extensive automotive knowledge with a combined
Too many.
50
Too
plus
many.
years of automotive performance racing and engineering experience. Let's see, we prioritize topical questions. If you have a question about an update or when something is going to be ready, we may not get to it. We will do our best to get to any of those kind of questions towards the end of the hour. But our goal is to actually engage with questions we can answer. We take a direct approach to responding. Try not to beat around the bush or sugarcoat our responses.
Yeah, and a lot of the responses will be like probably not what you want. Like a simple yes or no. There's a lot of well, it depends, and you know the nuanced technical things are generally not super cut and dry.
Yeah, and we prioritize truth and accuracy. Not to say that we're infallible or we're never gonna make a mistake in responding, but our goal is always to state things truthfully and accurately and avoid a lot of the misinformation, hype, BS that's out there. All right, we got a lot of questions rolling in, so let's get started.
Yeah, it's
Does the Mk8 GTI Golf R ECU feature native MPI like the previous generation Mk7 SIMOS ECU?
yes, it does. Yeah, the MPI controls and hardware and whatnot are already in the ECU. We're running MPI on our development cards here without issue. So yes, that is there. It doesn't have some of the stuff like the flex fuel that the Mk7 had for the sensor, but the MPI controls are all there.
What do you recommend to make 500 horsepower in a 2015 Mk7 GTI? Well, currently in our tuning catalog, we do not have a 500 horsepower kit, but I think our goal in development would be to release a kit with the Garrett Pmax turbo running E85, and I think that would get you to 500 horsepower or so. We will eventually release something like that, but I think that's the best way to do it. I would really avoid aftermarket turbo kits at this point. Used to be real popular to do like the APR Stage 3 kit or some of the other stuff out there, and I would definitely stay away from the APR Stage 3 because they literally blew up. 100
and I don't
plus
know
motors.
if you can even get. I think it's all bundled too. You can't just buy the hardware separately. So it's
No, you'd have to
it's a
get the
whole thing.
Yeah, and the tuning is part of the problem. But the Pmax base setups are very good. And there's also EQT. You know,
Yep.
I'll give them a shout out. They do a nice job over there.
Turbos. We did a couple of EQT tunes here in testing, so they work pretty well.
And the Vortex, I think, is that what it's called?
Vortex and Vortex XL.
Yeah. Yeah. So. The Vortex DP, which is really takes it up a notch. But yeah, check that out too. I think they're a very popular choice for that Mk7 market. Just got a CREC A6 transmission. Is somewhat choppy at low speeds gears. 034 trans tune helped, but I'm wondering what I could do to make it feel more drivable. Could the supercharger clutch cause this?
We talked about this.
I would say that, yeah.
I think last week a bunch. Yes, the clutch delete does help a lot of that light load and transition into its light to part throttle.
In my Q7, I was shocked at how better the car drove. The stock supercharger clutch setup makes it feel like the torque converter is never like engaging properly and everything's kind of delayed, so you step on the throttle and then you feel the power come on. So I would say for sure your next step should be the supercharger clutch delete, as well as the tunes to support it. And I'd love to hear back, have you report back on the difference. But like I said, it was completely changed the way my Q7, which is a CREC drove. They don't have the same transmission, right? But does the A6 have the same transmission?
It's a different generation, so it's still it's the AL551 versus the AL552. I mean, the hardware-wise, it's essentially the same, but it's the different software entirely.
I just want to point out that they're not exactly.
They're not.
But the effect to driving smoothness should be the same.
Yep.
Hey fellas, for the C7, looking at the graphs, the upper pulley and the 179 lower are very similar in ratios. Do you recommend one over the other? You know, as far as power goes, we are always saying that the ratio is all that really matters.
Yeah, how you get there is not as important.
Yeah, these kind of supercharged motors do suffer from some factory crank pulley failures.
Actually, I just posted up on the group this morning, I think.
Yeah,
he got stranded. His factory damper came apart.
And the factory damper is rubber isolated, and it attempts to be a harmonic damper to supposedly dampen or absorb, harmonics in the crankshaft and engine assembly. We have been replacing those failure-prone pulleys for 10 years now, or something. At least 6 or 7, and we've never seen or heard of a problem from a customer with the solid billet aluminum crank pulley like what we do. So the factory pulley separates where the rubber is, and that's how the supercharger is driven. Typically when that comes apart, it strands the car. So if you're going to do something, you may as well start with the crank pulley. And go from there. Yeah,
and we talked. It's another one we hit last week a little bit, but you also, with the bigger pulleys in general, you'll have a larger belt contact area on the pulleys, right. So belt slip is less of an issue with just a lower pulley.
Oh, it's CREC day.
It is.
I have a CREC A6 that I purchased used with 120,000 plus miles. Thoughts on replacing injectors?
Yeah, it's probably a good idea.
It's a good idea, or have them cleaned.
Yeah, the MPI I would feel more comfortable cleaning. The high pressure stuff, and you can get them cleaned. Generally, it's a replace and install fresh new ones.
They're not that expensive.
They're not that expensive.
I think cleaning maybe half the price of new ones or something. So.
MPI stuff, usually you can have decent luck cleaning them though.
Yeah. And the next question: in any Audi with native MPI CREC, should you replace direct or port injectors?
I think that covers what we just answered. Yeah, I would say replace the direct. The port you can usually clean.
Those, yeah.
And I would get them. Make sure you deal with a service that cleans them and actually tests them before and after to know if you had some severely clogged ones. You may, if you had some really trashed injectors, you may just want to replace them as well. All kinds of questions going in here.
Would you say the ZF8 Trans is better than the DSG? What are the pros, cons, and differences between the two? And they're both very good. They both do things well.
I'm assuming we're going to just compare between like the DL50 and DSG.
Yeah, we can just speak generically about it. But when the ZF8 came out in force, like in kind of 2018, especially when the B9 S4 came with it, it was very concerning to us and to the community. Like, what would it drive like? We've always enjoyed the performance of DSGs, especially in the B8 S4. So we were pleasantly surprised when we drove our 2018 B9 S4. And frankly, it drove great, and it could be driven, in a performance matter, like on track, and unlike kind of like a Tiptronic transmission from years earlier. So the ZF8 is a very good transmission. It's very fast shifting,
super capable transmission,
and it can mimic the DSG manual mode very well, keeping the torque converter locked while on or off load. There's no delays. There's no waiting for the torque converter to kick in. So it drives seamlessly, and it can shift as fast as a DSG, essentially, much faster than any manual transmission can be shifted. And it has this Amax feature that can apply power and torque through the shift and actually accelerate through the shift instead of normally as a shifts are a dead zone for acceleration. So I don't know. Do you want to spend a second?
No, all that's
we could talk all
dead
day
on.
about
I mean,
this.
you could say almost the exact same paragraph for the DL501 too.
Yeah.
They're really close. Personal preference, if they're both suited for the application, I would pick the DSG. Just I like the feel of it. It is just that extra bit crisper on shifts and on particularly downshifts. You notice it more. So that's just a preference thing, but no, they're both very good transmissions, and especially once tuned and with a good calibration on them, they both are completely capable. Personal preference, I like the DSG better. But.
Yeah, the benefit or trade-off is that the ZF8 appears as a stronger transmission.
I think it is ultimately
it can hold
more.
more.
It depends on which. Again, there's variants of both.
Yeah,
but
so we've seen very good reliability from the DL. The 502 and the S4s.
DL501.
The 501.
Yeah.
Very good reliability on
the AL552.
AL5. I'm not even sure I've heard of an issue.
No.
The B8 S4 DSGs, I wouldn't say are bad, but they have a lot more problems.
Yeah, they've got just some internal sensors. It's not even a mechanical issue. It's just a couple of the sensors and actuators that can act up at times. Or not even the actuator. It's just primarily the sensors.
Well, the SuperDuper Turbo Inlet fit on my X34 carbon intake system. It will, in virtually every case, you don't say what car you have, but in every case, we offer a SuperDuper conversion kit for any intakes. So if you bought a standard X34, the SuperDuper just has bigger pipes, bigger connections. And so we offer conversion kits on our website for whatever intake you have that you can keep all the basic parts of the intake and only pay for the upgraded parts that you need to go full SuperDuper. So check out our website, load in your application. It should be there. If you have any questions, shoot us an email to sales@034motorsport.com. Good afternoon to my favorite automotive team. You're welcome. Thank you. Just got the Grip Tech upper pulley for the B8.5 S4. Do you guys have any opinions on that pulley as far as Kevlar belts or general maintenance? So we've looked into the Grip Tech. I'll say definitively that it's not needed for the B8 S4, B8.5 S4 applications or any of the Audi supercharged applications. What we see, I've done some research on Grip Tech, and really their business is if you have a factory vehicle that when you turn up the boost the pulley slips, then you can add the Grip Tech coating, which helps that factory application now hold through a higher coefficient of drag.
It creates a higher coefficient of friction against
coefficient of friction on the pulley. In the case with our pulleys, we don't have any slipping problems with our smooth steel pulleys or aluminum pulleys, and we looked into adding it. It's not cheap. It would add quite a bit of cost, and for us it seems like a gimmick, so we wouldn't make our customers or ask our customers to pay more for something that isn't needed.
Yeah, when you can accomplish it with the correct belt and the belt tension.
Yeah. The correct belt, correct tension, and the surfaces and fit of our pulley splines or whatever.
Ribs.
The ribs. Our pulleys are ribbed for your pleasure.
Pleasure.
But the Grip Tech is just not needed. So we looked into it, and we would have to send them our pulleys, and they would coat it, and it was a lot. I mean, it would substantially increase the price. So here at 034, we really try to embrace this idea of that our products are substantive, they have substance, And that means everything that's in the products is something you actually need. We're really never going to ask you to pay for something that you don't need or that won't benefit you. So I think once the Grip Tech coating is on there, the belt still doesn't slip. It didn't slip before, it won't slip after, and you just kind of spent some money and you can't even see it, or it's not even carbon fiber or something cool to look at. So, but anyways, I think you'll be fine. It's not like your pulley's not going to work well. So you made your decision, and that's fine. But just explaining, our position and why we chose not to go that route, and why we don't believe it's a worthwhile investment. Was there a second part to that? Oh, Kevlar belts.
Kevlar belts.
Yeah, I think we are actually working on our own line of belts that will be either Kevlar or an aramid fiber. Kevlar is not necessarily the only material out there, but the idea is that you want the belt to be able to hold high loads, high levels of tension, and you don't want the belt to stretch. And so these aramid fibers and Kevlar as well, but Kevlar's not the only material. They have very high tensile strength, and they're very resistant to stretching. So if you made let's just say if you bungee corded from a rope made out of Kevlar, you'd die.
There wouldn't be much bungee in that cord.
You'd hit the bottom and your head would just rip off. The stuff just doesn't stretch. And so it is a very good material to make a belt out of. But really any belt that can hold tension for, as long as possible, its useful life, and doesn't stretch, which means it holds tension, is a good belt. So we currently offer good belts, replacement belts on our website. However, our goal is to come out with even better ones that are branded 034, that are made to our specifications and precise lengths that we deem necessary for our various applications. Is there any issue with using an aftermarket diverter valve on your tuned Mk8 GTI? We discussed this last week if you want to go back and look, but we do not recommend it.
Generally say yes, there are typically issues with aftermarket valves. It's a very tightly controlled system from the OEM, and it's regulating that pressure around the turbo in a very controlled and measured manner. And most everything you get out of those valves, once you put an intake on, you get it anyway, once you've got an open intake on there.
Someone says, did y'all ever notice that Jackal's product description for 3.0T includes revisions that line up with some issues you all pointed out to them? They owe you guys some consulting fees. Well, I don't think they'll see it that way, but you might be right. I mean, we would like to see them improve their product if they're going to be selling it to people. The market deserves the best quality product possible, so I'm glad to hear if they're making improvements and changes. They'd be dumb not to. I don't know why they wouldn't. We put all the problems with their tune on a silver platter for them.
I would say all of them, but we put some of the easily displayed ones.
The ones we put out there, which were the most egregious, we put out there on a silver platter, and we spent a lot of time doing that. So if we had charged them a consulting fee, it would have been well into the 5 figures for sure. So glad to hear they're doing something good with it. It's certainly created a lot of animosity, but we don't have any regrets. And, we will do it again if we see what we feel is a bad player in the market. All right. Will AY A3 front-wheel drive ever get a tune by 034?
Gosh, I saw this one. I'm pretty sure we've already got files up for that. It's going to depend on box codes and things, but hit us up at tuning at, and we'll confirm it for you.
Yeah, shoot us an email.
I want to say that's already in the fitment guide and should be captured already. So
if we don't currently have it, we will. We don't currently have a date of release, but yeah. Oh God, I've been dreading this question.
This one?
Should I invest in mods to a 2023 Q7 3.0 or just buy an SQ7? Oh God.
Also, they have turbo 3 liter, or they want the turbo 4.
Okay, so I I happen to own a 2018 Q7 and a 2021 SQ7 now. And they're both great cars. They're both very good cars. The SQ7 is fucking really good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I gotta say that. Stock, it's just very good. Now, the 2023 Q7 is a 3-liter turbo, EA 839 motor. So it has a lot more potential than the earlier EA 837 supercharged CREC Q7 that I own. I think the 2023 Q7 is not a cheap car, right? That's already a $50,000 car. SQ7s are about $50,000
Used and
for a used one, a couple years old. So, I don't know, dude.
You've got some good choices between the two. They're both very competent. The SQ7 is definitely, a level up on just creature comforts, interfaces, and like.
I think
refinement, but I mean the 23 Q7 is also. I mean.
No, the 23 Q7
really
I think has the same.
No, I'm just thinking of like the packages and stuff you get with the SQ7. Like generally by default, you're gonna have a higher trim level to start with.
Yeah, I don't know what trim level he got, but my partner Tanza, she has a 2022 Q7, and I mean my SQ7 has awesome sports seats, with the red stitching and stuff, so it's cool, but the interiors are basically the same. The whole MMI interface and stuff. So I don't know, man. I mean, the SQ7's tough to beat. We're working on a whole line of modifications for that. If I wanted to sell you a bunch of Q7 parts, I wouldn't tell you this, and I do want to sell you a bunch of Q7 parts, but we can help you make your Q7 just as good as an SQ7. In many ways, but the SQ7 just has so much potential. So we're looking at a tuning calibration that will get the SQ7 to 800-900 horsepower, and my SQ7 has the air ride suspension and the 4-wheel steering, and probably some of the best factory dampers I've ever driven or ridden in a factory car. The car just rides and handles like a dream, and I'm not sure what you could do to a Q7 to get it to do that, unless the Q7 has the similar air ride that the SQ7 has. So it's up to you. You can't go wrong. They're both good options, but the SQ7 is just going to have so much more headroom. Let us know what you think. If you have any follow-ups, or I'd be really interested to hear what you would do.
Yeah.
And then the 2023 is just going to be a newer car. My 21 is nice, but it's not a 2023. Tanza's 2022 is just noticeably nicer, newer, just less miles, less wear and tear. What's been the most shocking thing you guys have discovered when tuning Audis and VWs? I'd say the customers.
Well, that can
Some of the customers.
That can certainly keep you on your toes. When tuning, so are we talking about the calibration side here? There's definitely
maybe.
The calibrators at these OEMs are also people, and they're both as fallible as we are, and as I don't want to say enthusiasts or quirky and whatnot. So you'll find Easter eggs in a bunch of files, whether it's just abbreviations in the hex or actual text strings and stuff in there from time to time. You'll find mistakes that OEMs make from time to time that get out into the wild and onto production vehicles. One of the biggest ones recently was probably the 8V RS3. Had some pretty glaring fuel pump control issues when it went out into the public. That they ended up having to do revisions and recalls and whatnot on. Some other stuff, there's some timing map boo-boos on some of those as well that'll really catch you out if you're not doing things right. So it's just little bugs here and there. I wouldn't say anything too overwhelmingly shocking.
Mm-hmm.
You'll run into situations where like almost the same motor across two pretty similar cars will be completely different in the calibration style because it was given to two different calibration teams, assumingly. And you've got to have basically a ground up calibration strategy for each because they're so different. So some stuff like that. Pretty boring in the scheme of things, I guess, from not someone staring at the bits and bytes all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say, from my perspective, the most shocking thing is what we see in the industry, the lies or disinformation.
Oh, from the industry side, yeah.
The false advertising, taking advantage of customers, things like that. But the things on the engineering side, to me, have been less surprising, less shocking.
No, I will.
There hasn't been anything like.
Oh my God! What is this? No, the other thing I guess would be that it's shocking when looking at other markets how difficult we have it compared to like BMW even, or some of the others where those ECUs are compared to the Volkswagen Audi group stuff are just a whole nother level of simplicity, like just to flash them, not necessarily the calibration. There's not a lot different going on there, but the protections around it and just the locked down, non-aftermarket friendly nature of Volkswagen and Audi is, I would say, probably the most frustrating or shocking thing when you see what others are doing that don't seemingly have any problems leaving it a little more open.
Very interesting question. Thank you. B9.5 S4. What temp ranges are considered optimal for engine and transmission? What temp number is considered overheating?
Oh, okay.
This is another one of those. It depends, kind of.
It really depends. So the factory stuff and most tunes, cruising light load stuff will target a little over 100 C for coolant and water temps, just to optimize oil viscosity drag things and whatnot to get everything up and up to temp. As you get into load, that's going to be tuning dependent and it varies from car to car. We will generally pull it down in the 90s under sustained load stuff. What's considered overheating? It's going to depend on the component too. Transmissions are going to have a very different temperature range than engines. Engines at coolant temps in the teens, 115 C is probably it's getting there. Well, your boiling point goes up as your pressure, your system pressure is increased. But yeah, I mean, much north of that, and you're going to be getting into hopefully power reduction states and overheat states.
Yeah, I think. And then we're talking oil or coolant temp.
Yeah, they don't specify. So yeah, the oil temp's going to be much higher generally on very hot, high load situations. And similarly, transmission temperatures can be certainly hotter than that too.
But I think in general, like stuff over 300 is
Fahrenheit.
Sustained is on the hot side
for oil temps.
Yeah. A lot of the conventional wisdom about oil temps doesn't hold up anymore with synthetic oils that have much higher smoke points and operating temps.
Yeah, but once you're at that point, though, you're going to struggle keeping coolant temps in check.
Yeah, because they're linked.
Yep. Yeah, you've got basically one thermal mass
that's what the factory does. So in the aftermarket, we start to try to separate that out or add more cooling to one side or the other, but they are linked from factory, which is the right way to do it. You really want to get oil temps up as quickly as you can. It really helps emissions and engine life longevity. What sporting mods do I need for a Pmax turbo on a Mk8 GTI? So according to our website, which you can go look if you'd like after this, but an upgraded intercooler, upgraded intake.
Tires are optional.
Tires are stickier tires are optional.
Strongly recommended, though.
But and then there are no fueling mods required.
Yep.
The Mk8 factory fuel system is a real high flowing system. Are the secondary O2 sensors measure something on stage 2-3 B9 S4? I'm getting codes that it is malfunctioning.
Yes, those are still in the loop and they are still monitored to ensure they're functioning correctly. And are there as another sensor input option. So yeah, we would want to take a look at your codes and see what exactly is going on.
Any suggestions to reduce wheel hop in a stage 2 Mk8 GTI? Yeah, our dog bone inserts help a lot with that. In general, stiffening up the motor mounts, the dog bone mounts, those things really help, because wheel hop is sort of this vicious mechanical cycle that's created when the tires attempt to grab. It loads up the engine moves a bunch, then the tires finally break loose, and then it's just kind of this just like back and forth, like power cycling between the two systems. So the more you can lock down your drivetrain, the less that cycling starts. So
it will move it to other places. It depends how bad and what the traction situations are. Engine mounts and transmission mounts start to become your next source.
Yeah. But once you stiffen up all that stuff, it generally
Helps quite a lot.
helps or solves it. And, can my son and I use the same dongle for tuning each other's cars? He drives a GTI and I've got an Audi.
Absolutely.
God, there's so many jokes. But yes, you can. Our dongles are not connected to the car. The tunes are.
Yeah.
It is heartwarming to see a father and son
Yeah,
share a
pretty cool.
dongle. That's nice. So that's one of the reasons we allow it. So yeah, dongle away. Inline 6-cylinder versus V6, pros and cons.
Oh, that is a little too
Interesting question.
Yeah.
I mean, we could start with packaging. The two motors offer very different packaging constraints. An inline motor is typically going to be narrower and longer. A V6 is going to be much shorter and more compact, but wider. So that's one thing. I think
it's so interesting because the V6, obviously now we have a lot of the hot V configurations, so that completely flipped some of the packaging constraints over, because it was, when you had your turbos hanging out on the outside, the motor gets even wider, so you get another basically foot and a half of width around the motor. You got to comp.
The hot V6 is very compact.
Yeah,
it's true. I don't know. I mean, there's some theoretical stuff, but in practice it can all be addressed with engineering solutions. A 6-cylinder crank is much longer than a V6 crank,
nice,
which means it could twist and have more harmonics.
Totally different harmonics, yeah.
However, BMW inline 6s are some of the smoothest motors around. So I really don't think at the end of the day you can say one's better or that the pros and cons are that different. It's just do you want all your cylinders in a row, or do you want them in a V, and how does that affect the packaging?
I think honestly it's mostly packaging, because like you said, everything can be kind of engineered around these days for the compromises on each.
Yeah, I mean, one thing is that the BMW motors, being an inline 6, have very highly optimized cylinder heads and ports and valve train configurations. If you look at some of like the greatest, most powerful or efficient racing motors of all times, like motors from Cosworth, and you can see that the air comes into the intake manifold, goes into the port, and it's just a straight shot into the valve. There's no short side radius or bend, and so you don't want your port shaped like this, right? I don't know if you can see that. You want it shaped like this, right? You want it straight. You want the air just to go straight into the combustion chamber. And so with the inline 6 packaging, results in a lot of room on both sides of the cylinder head for intake and exhaust solutions. And once you start getting into how Audi does V6s and the hot V stuff, things get a little tighter. So I think and based on a 3-liter BMW straight 6 makes a lot more power than an Audi V6 under kind of similar circumstances. So that's probably the best pro I can think for the inline 6 is if it allows a more high performance valve train port configuration, then it's just going to flow more. It's going to be more efficient. There's going to be less restriction getting air in and out of the motor. But there's a lot that affects that.
Yeah,
the cams,
it's
the cam timing, the tuning. So again, I mean, this type of question, which kind of you're asking for kind of a black and white response to these physical and engineering dynamics that have a myriad of solutions. So a good example of this is like saying, what's better, a front-engined car or a rear-engined car? And on paper, you would say rear-engine Porsche, terrible idea. It's going to have all the weight in the back. It's just going to want to spin. It's going to be super tail-happy, unstable. There's just no way that's going to be good. However, Porsche 911 is arguably the most winning race car of all time. And Porsche has done an incredible job of engineering around this. And I think Elon Musk famously poo-pooed the 911 chassis configuration. Obviously has no idea what he's talking about, because Porsche, being the engineering company they have for almost 100 years, have been solving that problem very, very well. So you can do all kinds of stuff if you address all the issues. The real problem comes when you implement an idea conceptually and you don't do a good job of addressing the problems. There's a problem with every configuration. And if you don't take the proper engineering process and you don't create the proper engineered solutions, then you can fuck anything up. So
everything starts out with a whole bag of compromises, and you got to pick which ones you're going to fix.
Yeah, it's sort of like this idea. A lot of people obsess about decisions they make. Which college should I go to? Who should I marry? What field should I work in? What kind of job do I want? Do I want to live in this state or that state? And they kind of nauseate. And there's this sort of idea that, like, if I make this decision, I'll be happy. If I make that decision, I won't be happy. And one decision is going to be better and benefit me more. And my opinion, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what kind of job you have. It kind of doesn't matter who you marry. It just matters on how well do you do it. Do you want to live in Alabama or in Oregon? Doesn't matter. Make the best of wherever you live. Do you want to be a doctor or a dentist, or you want to sell insurance? It doesn't matter. Do the best one of whatever you can. And so I think we're still talking about straight six engines.
I think so, yeah. I think we're still on
and so it doesn't matter if it's a straight six or a V6. Just do it really well.
Yeah.
Okay? Thoughts on how modern cars are going for a more muted and less mechanical feeling experience? Well, we're all for it, because we're here to make cars less muted and more mechanical feeling. But yeah, I think in general the push towards electrification inherently results in muted and less mechanical feeling by nature. It's really hard to make an electric vehicle feel mechanical. You could put like a raunchy gearbox in it or something.
Some just like
nobody's
solid suspension bushings.
Maybe that's the thing. Just make a raunchy electrical car.
All creaky and clattery, and
that just has like straight cut gears for like a drivetrain.
Straight cut gear.
Well, you could probably do a bunch of gears under the car to deliver the power and just make it really raunchy. But so I mean, life is getting more muted and less mechanical, right? Like, we don't talk to people anymore. We text them. We don't go out to eat. Soon a drone will drop your Habit burger off at your house. We don't do a lot of the things we used to do because life is getting less physical and less mechanical and more virtual and more electronic. So at 0 through 4, we kind of strike a balance. We want to keep the luxury and refinement of the luxury car that you bought. The modern Audi S5 is a $75,000, $80,000 car. We're not here to try to make that a jalopy for you, but we do want to make the car fun to drive, and that means increasing the intake induction sound, the exhaust sound enough to hear and feel it. It does mean making the car more powerful and fast to respond. It means making the car steer and follow the inputs that you give it, making the rear of the car more lively and engaging as you go into a corner. Those are the kind of things we're doing. But when you put your podcast on and get back on the adaptive cruise control, but it's still the car you bought, and it's still luxurious and nice and not stinky, and there's not tailpipes, carbon soot all over the rear bumper and stuff like that, and not hard and crashy riding. The whole car starting to rattle apart, So I think it's a great time to be in the cars.
Dude, the amount of low effort, high return, mods you can do these days is pretty insane.
The good news is, if you still want that, you can buy a B5 S4 for $5,000 or a B8 S4, which is that much less refined
than the current
generation. You can. There's a lot of fun.
That's a good point. All of the old stuff is still available generally.
And I still kind of like that stuff, but day in and day out, I want to drive a nice, luxurious Audi that's comfortable, reliable. Yeah. Plus, MILFs don't like all that bumpiness and stuff. Oh my God, we got a lot of questions.
Speaking of those, down here.
Which one?
19. Down there, there you go.
Gang, thanks for sending over the new 034 swag. Hot moms near me are already calling, demanding child support.
There you go.
Hand me down. DeVry swag has been retired.
So he was what, 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, it was a couple weeks ago. So I was like, send this guy some swag, man. So I'm glad it showed up. Good luck with the child support. You're going to need a good lawyer. Been there, done that. Do you guys plan to do any updates to your 8V.5 DAZA software? We do not currently have any updates. There's not currently anything that we feel needs to be addressed with that tune. But
I will say there's a little bit of work going on right now on crackles for late DAZA stuff, but that's kind of the state of those right now. They're pretty solid, fleshed out files, and have been for some time. It's just some of the very later, like 2020 and up model years, changed how they crackled. We're working on that.
Do you have a discount for tune switching? Yes, we do. Send us an email to sales@034motorsport.com. In general, it's 25% off. However, in some cases, we do offer more, so inquire within. Did we retire Joe Smuckatellii references for DEI?
YouTube is very concerned about Smuckatellii.
Something I feel he was great teaching Aid and explaining what not to do.
Yeah.
You know what? Joe Smuckatellii is alive and well. He has not been retired. I think he just needed a vacation due to mandatory labor laws requiring breaks for employees.
15-year, 12-minute break.
But we're a small company here in the world of DEI, so we did not have to do DEI. We have always treated all people here with fairness and equity, and we include. Actually, we don't include all people. You have to be like really cool and smart.
Yeah, no toxicity is what we do out here.
If you're dumb or mean, we don't got time for that. So we do not practice that. We'll fire your ass. But we're all about Joe Smuckatellii, so we'll bring him back. What's your opinion about the Mk7 Golf R DSG in general? Address that real quick.
Fantastic transmissions. There's really not a lot fundamentally different between the Mk7 DSG, the Mk6, or even 5 DSGs. They're all basically incremental changes on the same DQ250 platform. And it's been a fantastic transmission. Very low issues, super stout, and able to punch well over its weight for what they're delivered with stock. So they're good transmissions in general. The R's and some of the different variants got different gear ratios. That's really about the only difference between a Golf R and a GTI and an A3 and a whatever came with that transmission package. The later ones, the Mk7.5s, did come with a DQ381. which is kind of just the next evolution to 7-speed versus the 6. Similar story there. They've been great transmissions. A little grumpier on the tuning side to deal with because it's a Bosch versus Temec, but that's way more boring. They're still just as stout mechanically, though.
Let's try to pound through some more
Yeah,
of these.
Pages of questions.
I don't know. This one says, your stage 1 drag trans tune cracked my DSG in half. Still a big fan of 034, but it was on the 3/4 shift, so if I had to guess, the 7,500 RPM it didn't like.
Yeah, I don't
I've never
think
heard
there's
of
anything to that. So remember, like, the engine RPM, I have no idea the failure of this particular one.
It would be good to
I
hear
did see
more.
a transmission, somebody posted up last week, some pictures in one of the groups. It looked like the tail shaft, like the drive shaft had come apart and had been replaced or something. And it was, if I'm remembering correctly, it was like the drive shaft itself had failed and took out the rear housing. I don't know if that's the same here or not. But anyway, that's
just not a thing.
Yeah, a 7,500 RPM engine shift point doesn't do anything more inside the transmission than, like, had that shift happened earlier. Your output shaft speeds, all of that stuff, it goes way higher in the higher gears. Like the actual transmission speeds internally will be much higher in the higher gears, depending on road speed and axle
compared to
output shaft speeds
compared to fourth gear,
3/4 shift and. Shifting at 7,500, it's just to stretch the legs on that last gear in some configurations on some tracks or whatever you're doing with it. Your peak power and your peak torque happened way earlier, so that shift point is less stress generally on the transmission than a optimized peak power shift.
Yeah, like a 5,000.
Or just in
RPM
these it's around 7,200 or so to get you in the meat of the power band.
It's clear. Sounds like you had a transmission.
Sounds like something happened, but I don't know that. We can correlate it to a rev limiter or something like that.
Yeah, we'd be happy to consult you and try to get to the bottom of what happened, but there's nothing in the tuning that we know of that would cause.
Yeah, I mean we have guys on that we're testing with that are running 7,800 and up right now with no issues. So I mean it's those are on other setups, built motors,
and like we were saying earlier, those DSGs do fail. They do have some.
But without seeing, I can't imagine what would possibly crack a transmission if that wasn't a mechanical fault of some sort.
Yeah. I want to make a 2015 SQ5 louder. What should I do? Oh, that's like the last generation, right?
Yeah, that's supercharged.
Don't we have a ResX for that? Yeah.
ResX intake.
Do our ResX and our intake. That will really. It won't be loud, but it'll wake the car up.
You'll be able to hear things finally, though. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like the stock stuff is so muted.
Oh, it's too quiet.
It's very sewing machine.
Yeah, check out our website for intake and ResX options. You'll love that.
You're more with all the sound coming in now.
Which mod would make a B9.5 S5 sound aggressive, muffled delete, or resonant delete?
Same answer, ResX and or.
Yeah, we have the two. You could start with the front pipes that we offer. And if you want something more, then add the center X pipe. But that's a really nice mod. I'd recommend that. And much cheaper and easier to install than a full exhaust system. Does the 27T have tuning from 0 through 4? I see you guys sell parts. Yeah, we used to sell a whole tuning program. We discontinued it really kind of when we started putting a big earnest effort into our more modern tuning program like B8.
The bigger hang up is we currently all the ME7 stuff, all the older K-line stuff had to be shipped in here to be flashed and programmed. And it's just not a scalable or convenient solution for anyone. So maybe someday down the road, if we get it all turned on the server again or developed for the server flashing, we'll do that. But currently, no, there's no plans on that one, sadly.
I hear I'm still in this B5 Facebook group, but there's a guy named Blake Beetle. Yeah. Beetle. He's like the guy right now. So I think everyone's just going with him, and we're just never going to go back to 270 tuning. Our tunes were very good, and I think they would still hold up, but we haven't really done anything with them in 10 years or whatever. So. Hello, Zerth4. Why don't you guys offer front sway bars for the C7? If not, why? Since other companies are offering kit. In general, we prioritize the rear bar for these Audi sedans, which makes a nice reduction in body roll, but really shifts the driving dynamic towards more lively and more oversteer, which the cars really need. Stock, they just push really bad. So in some cases, if you look at like our B8 and B9, and we do offer front bars as well with even bigger rear bars. The benefit there is really only for like more body roll reduction, but I'm confident that if you put our rear bar on, you'll find that the car handles better than some of the other companies' offerings, where they're just making both bars bigger, and while they're reducing body roll, they're not changing the handling dynamic at all. The cars still push. So we're curating the driving experience on these, and we're making these decisions for a reason. I think there's a lot of other companies that are just kind of copying, pasting factory sway bars and just making them X amount bigger and calling it good. But we spend a lot of time engineering, calculating, and testing these mods. So at some point, if we do come out with a front bar, we will come out with an equally bigger rear bar to offset that. But for now, the feedback is very good, and I would recommend going that route and seeing how you like it. I heard that Porsche kind of tried to hide this from everyone, that mid-engined are better handlers than rear-engine. What are your thoughts on this one? Well, I mean, it's true. Technically on paper, a mid-engine car is going to be easier to make handle better than a rear-engine car, but that doesn't mean you can't make a rear-engine car handle very well. And again, Porsche is a good example of having done that.
Yeah, it's just all the compromises you're choosing from. So mid-engine cars have their own packaging and design constraints that you have to work around. So yeah, they might have a better balance to start with from just a weight perspective, but getting the given drivetrain you need in there may be much trickier.
Yeah, you could think of it and from like a food perspective. Is like one ingredient better than the other? Well, it depends what you do with it. Is chicken breast better or chicken thigh? Well, they're both very good when they're handled and cooked correctly. The chicken thigh, you can just cook it for as long as you want, and it turns out great. Chicken breast will get dried out, but if you can cook it just right, it's going to be freaking soft, moist, and delicious. So yeah, I mean, and you season it with the right flavors. So this kind of black and white thinking of like one thing has to be better than another, it just doesn't hold up in the real world, because you can always do a lot to solve for the issues. Just depends on how hard you want to make, how hard you want to work to do it. And it's no secret Porsche has worked very hard to make that rear engine configuration handle well. Will the B8 3.0 ever surpass the B5 2.7T?
The B8?
What kind of question is this?
It's light years ahead of that.
A B8 3.0 will absolutely destroy
a B5. I'm trying to think of any especially mod for mod and
in any realistic driving experience too. I think static on the dyno if you're talking about like static power, but a B8 is just going to be a weapon. Say around a road course or on the streets, compared to the B5. Just clunky transmission, laggy motor. The B8's light years ahead in technology with variable, cam timing and valve train adjustability. So it can just do everything well. The 2.7 is a cool motor, but it's like caveman technology, compared to the B8. So, it'd be interesting to hear. Don't get me wrong, I like B5s.
They're wonderful in their own doing what B5s do.
I mean, I think I personally tuned the first 1,000 horsepower 2.7T on Earth, back in the day. But the B8 was a huge step forward. You're talking about, I don't know, 1997 technology versus 2010 technology. I mean, a lot happened in 10 years. All right, a couple minutes left. Anything we want to jump on?
Let's see here. There was a
B9 or B9.5, which looks better, exterior, interior?
Oh,
Which
gosh.
do you guys prefer?
That's very subjective.
It's subjective, but in general, I would say the B9.5 is just nicer. It's newer, but yeah, they're both nice. Oh, we've responded to water meth stuff before. If you have questions, I would just say go search.
Yeah, we're not big fans typically of water meth stuff. They're really tricky to do in a reliable and repetitive way.
Any issues on your guys' B9 S4 transmission? Where'd that go?
Oh, it just moved up. I just saw it right here.
Any
They
issues
just
on your
tracked.
guys' B9 S4 transmissions that get tracked? I tracked my car and had multiple instances of not upshifting from 4th to 5th on the last straight. Fluid's already been changed recently.
What I would keep an eye on there is actually engine temps. If you're in a hot environment or you're really hammering on it and your engine temps are getting up there and you're unable to cool it sufficiently, the rev limit can start coming down to the point where the TCU's shift point is now higher than what the engine's rev limiter is, so it won't auto upshift for you. That is my guess as to what's going on. You can always, I'd say, log your session on track with your SPI app. Just tuck it away, start the logger, and tuck your phone away so it's not flying around the car while you're driving. We do that for every vehicle that goes out on track. Every session, we're always logging it to know what happened and how it performed through the session. So that would probably be the easiest way. And we can talk with you about that, prior to your next event if you're going out, to get you set up with the best logger possible for our track day.
I had no idea I'd bought a MILF wagon when I got my 2016 SQ5. Yeah, if you don't have kids, get ready to learn about what kids like, because you're going to be playing with some kids if you're heading that route. My EA839 has gone through 3 injectors on cylinder 6. Same issue every time. Injector is stuck open and dumps fuel on the initial priming cycle. Have you encountered this?
We have seen, when we've seen something like this before, it was actually a harness issue, and it ended up being I think it was the pin in the actual injector connector itself.
Yeah, check that.
But it was a wiring thing, and it was super frustrating because we'd swap injectors, we'd swap. I think we did a harness overlay on it, thinking it was something in the harness. It ended up being, I think, the pin at the actual injector itself.
Yeah.
It was just failed in some way that it would overheat at the pin, and you get these super. What we're guessing killed the injectors. You get these super rapid on-off cycles because of that arcing essentially at the pin, and the injector would fail either closed or open. It failed both ways on us, and it wasn't until we replaced all of that I think we cleaned that up.
I tried 2 times to email customer support, as the sway bar didn't come with grease fittings. Just wanted to know if this is how it was supposed to come. Well, first off, if you're not getting a response from customer support, I'd be worried about what's going on. Like maybe your emails aren't getting to us somehow.
We track all that, and everyone gets.
Yeah, can we make sure to follow up with him and try to figure out what's going on with that? But yes, if you got our Teflon lined bushings, then there are no grease fittings. It should have come with some plugs. So there are still grease fitting spots in the sway bar brackets that get plugged with a plug, just to keep dust and dirt from getting in there. You'll know if your bushings are Teflon lined because on the inside ID of the bushing, you'll see a fuzzy Teflon lining material. Our older style normal poly bushings are just smooth poly on the inside.
Yeah, it'll be a uniform look.
Yeah,
inside and out.
So if you see the fuzzy Teflon afro going on inside the bushing, you're good. Do not grease them. You can install them and just install the supplied plugs. There should have been a card in there that explains all this.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, you should have gotten a response from us. I just don't know why you didn't.
Yeah. Chances are good we sent one and then maybe it got into your spam box.
Maybe you're not getting them somehow. But our customer service team is caught up. We have relatively short response times, sometimes less than an hour to customers emailing in. So there's no issue there.
Yep.
And we do respond to every customer that emails us.
It's
absolutely mandatory.
Yeah.
Should we jump on one more before
Sure.
we wrap on?
what you got.
Number 8 is interesting. Is that a thing?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. Guys, any opinion on one last one?
We're probably not doing O&E linkages. Sorry.
We are not. You could look to JHM Motorsport for that.
JHM's got some
They're
stuff
probably the only ones on Earth who are doing something like that.
Somebody's asking about diverter valve noises on the Mk8. Number
That's
3.
just the only way you'd get that is through the intake. Oh, any plans to release a diverter valve for the Mk8 Golf R? The stock Continental makes a weird thunk when it's closing.
Yeah, that's just the sound they make.
Yeah, that's just normal.
When you got an open intake, yeah.
Yeah. No, there's nothing we would do.
Some general thought. Yeah, no, I think we've got through quite a bit of the stuff we can hit quickly here.
Thoughts on the Racing Line Stage 2 Evo big brake kit for Golf R 7.5? I'm thinking about purchasing this. It's a very good kit.
It's a huge kit for those cars.
We run it on our in-house Mk7. We've tracked it. It's a very good kit. No issues.
It has plenty of brakes now.
A lot of brakes. Yeah, it can actually withstand a full 30-minute track session with the right pads.
Yep.
So yeah, highly recommended. I believe we have all that stuff in stock too.
Yep.
Okay, well,
Okay.
I think that's the bulk of it. And sorry we didn't get to update questions, but
Yeah, there's a pile of those in there too.
yeah, appreciate the interest and response. We are not ignoring you. We would just have to have like a 2-hour live chat to be able to get to everything. So
Yeah.
thank you guys for joining us. Always really fun to talk to you guys and hear your questions. We'll see you guys next week.
Maybe. I'm off next week, so we'll have to figure something out.
We'll figure it out next week.
We'll see you.
Cheers.